CSS Float, a property commonly used in content editing, especially when you have to display items in a certain order. So, for example, the most commonly place where it is used is inside a paragraph or any element which is holding a lot of text. And you also have to put an image right next to that paragraph within the text somewhere. If you take an example over here, I've taken a paragraph on this body, and inside the paragraph, along with this random text, I have also inserted an image, which is a PNG file, and it's the same old pattern, the image file which I had created. And you can see it is lined up within the text as I have written it. I can also move this file if I want, but I'm just going to keep it for now. Now, the order that I wish to see it is I want to see it submerged inside this text, that it takes up whatever space is required on one particular side, let's say the left side, and the remaining part of it should be the text covering it. So, like where the text is starting at the bottom part, I want the text to start at the beginning where you can see the heart is displayed and the white space above it, right here at the very top line of the image. So, let's do that. I can set a simple property to this image, which is known as float left. If I set this property float left, you can see the image appears to be submerged in the text and the text has adjusted itself around the image. Regardless of the text alignment, it has made a space for the image to fit in this very spot. And this is how you see it displayed inside magazines and newspapers. And definitely now you have an idea how it is displayed on several websites. Similarly, I'm going to try adding another image over here, and you see the image is too huge. So I'm going to apply the second class, which is going to have a float right. That's why it is stuck to the right side and it has a fixed width, which has brought my image down to a very visible size now. And if you can see, they both can share the same paragraph. You can have multiple images here and they can be set to float left and right. Now, another trick with floats is about any other element apart from having content forced into your paragraph. You can also have divs created. So let's say I define some styles for my divs over here. Okay. And as you can see, I've created two divs and their position left and right, and that is because they have been rendered one after the other. So the div on the left appears to be on the left because it was rendered first, and we know that our content flows from left to right. That's why the second div, which is colored in blue, and I've entered the text right inside it, has been rendered on the right side. Now I can also control the way this flows on the particular screen over here. So let's say the first div I want it to float on the other side. I can simply set it to float right. And my div on the left side naturally has taken the left side to it, but also I would like to enforce it to make sure it stays there. Now, regardless of the order of which these were mentioned on my file, on the document, they have been rendered forcefully on the left and right side, depending on what have applied in the CSS style. This is how you can play around with elements and force them to appear in a certain order on different screens. When you learn about media query, this will become very useful to you to understand where else can this setting be used. Now in this case, what has happened is I've made sure that this display inline block property has been set to both divs. What if I remove these properties? And I'm also going to get rid of the float right and float right property for the time being. What this does, it makes them behave like natural divs, consuming the entire width of the screen that is available to them. So the width of the parent element that they have. So let's say now I choose to give it a float property to the first one and I make it float right, meaning it is going to float to the other direction. And if you notice, it has automatically taken up the right side and the naturally occurring right element over here is now shifted to left because it is considered to be the first to be rendered over here, whereas the red colored one has been shifted to the right side. Now, in this case, it's going to behave like a natural div, but the other one which has been floated to the left is right has acted unnaturally. You can fix this either by making the other one also to shift to the other side, which brings us back to what we had done previously. But what if a case is that I do not want it to stick to the left side and I want it to take up the next line? The simple setting for that is clear. So I can choose which side to clear. So let's say, yeah, I want it to be placed inside below the elements which have been shifted to the right side. I can choose clear right, and it automatically places it below this. If I choose clear left, it stays where it is because this there is no element which has been kept to the left side. I can change this by floating the previous element to left instead of right, and you see this appears one below the other. This is what clear does to float. Now, there are very few places where I've seen clear being used. People mostly rely on floats. You can try out with different combinations yourself and test it out. Now, if there is a confusion about whether the float is going to be left or right for the previous element, you can always use the setting clear both so that regardless of where the previous element has been floated, the next element is going to be put to the bottom of it. That's how floats and clear work.